Hey, what is going on, guys? Xpertfusion here. Welcome to another video on my channel about The Walking Dead Telltale Games. So in this video, we're going to do The Walking Dead Telltale Games top 10 characters. So coming in at number 10, we have Krista, and these characters range from Season 2 and Season 1. So Krista was in both seasons. She wasn't in much of Season 2, but there was something about Krista that I actually really liked, and it was her honesty. She was a very honest character. She always told people the truth, and she never lied about anything. She was a very serious character and a very interesting character, but they kind of threw her away in Season 2. She never died. She's still alive out there. We saw, her being pregnant, and then she got really mad when Omid died, and she lost a lot. She lost her kid, she lost Omid, she lost everything pretty much, so I feel bad for her. So she definitely deserves the number 10 spot in this countdown. So coming at the number 9 spot, I have Mike from Season 2, Episode 4 and Episode 5. So Mike was part of Carver's camp. He was one of the prisoners there, and we met him. And once we escaped Carver's camp, we brought Mike with us. And Mike's a great man. Mike is just, he brings laughter to the group. He brings funny stuff. He's not like any would of a serious character, almost the opposite of Krista in my opinion, because he's not serious at all. He's always joking around. He always makes funny jokes, and he just brings laughter to the group. He brings, hope. He brings brightness to the group. He's never, he's never a bad character. But of course, the character kind of we started to hate at the end of season episode 5 because he stole a bunch of stuff from us with Arvo and Bonnie, and it kind of left the group. But ever since that, I've kind of been like, oh, I don't like Mike anymore. He just completely abandoned Clementine. But before that, Mike was a great character, and I thought he was just an amazing character. A really funny guy. I remember when the season 2 episode 4 trailer came out, and we saw Mike, and everyone was like, oh my god, Lee is back, and stuff like that. And I guess you can say he looks like Lee a little bit, but it's not Lee at all. He's just black and, looks similar, I guess you could say. But Mike's a great guy, very funny, and he definitely deserves to be at the number 9 spot. Now coming in for the number 8 spot, I have Chuck from Season 1. Now Chuck, he was in very little amount of the series. He was in the littlest bit of really a lot of characters. He was in Episode 3 and a little bit of Episode 4, barely anything, and then he died. And we actually didn't get to see him die. We actually just found his dead body, so, we know he's dead, at least we know that. And I really liked him for what he said. He had a little speech to Lee, and because Lee was, not treating Clementine the best, she wasn't like, good survivor or anything like that. And Chuck went up to Clementine saying that you're gonna die if you don't learn how to survive, and Lee got all mad at him and stuff like that. But then he told Lee, you have to teach her how to shoot a gun. You have to, teach her how to cut her hair, so keep it nice and short so no walkers can grab it. You have to teach her overall just how to survive, and you have to come up with a plan. You can't just, wing it and probably end up dying. And that really helped Clementine. That's what made Clementine who she is today, and she wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for Chuck. Chuck told Lee to teach her better and make her a survivor instead of just a little kid. She taught, and then Lee ending up telling, her how to shoot a gun and teaching her all that. And Chuck, overall, very important character to the group, and he was a great character as well. So definitely Chuck deserves to be the number 8 spot. So coming in at the number 7 spot, we have another character that didn't get much screen time as well, and this is Pete. So Pete was only in one episode, Season 2, Episode 1. Actually was also in Episode 2, depending on your choices. He could have survived a little bit longer, but he would have died either way. And what Pete was a very wise guy. He was almost like the Herschel of the Telltale Games. Very wise. He knew everything. He was smart. He was kind of like one of those guys who would be like a lawyer, like, someone who followed cases, and he knows who's right, he knows who's lying, he knows everything. He's a very wise guy. Almost reminds me of like Dumbledore or something like that, but he's very young though. He's not like old as like Herschel or anything like that, but he's a very wise guy, and it was very sad to see him die because he didn't deserve to die, because wise people, they really don't deserve to die at all, because they know life, they knew how to survive in the apocalypse, and it got to him eventually. So coming at the number 6 spot, I have Carly from Season 1, Episode 1, and possibly Episode 2 and 3, depending on your choices as well. Carly is a great character. A lot of people loved her, and I liked her for her badassness. One of the most badass girl characters in the series, but we know it's not the most badass girl character because there are some other badass girl characters in the Telltale games, but Carly has to be one of them. She was very, very skilled with her gun, and she was also very wise. You know, she knew how to survive and stuff like that, but of course the very sad way of her dying was Lily putting a bullet in her head because she was sticking up for Ben, and then Lily thought it was Carly that actually was the one who stole the supplies from the bandits, and then she just put a bullet in her head and ended it right there. So Carly was a great character, though. You know, it didn't stop me from liking her character a lot, even though she wasn't in much. And she had a little bit of a relationship with Lee, nothing huge, nothing like major. But, you know, I could tell they had some chemistry going on. It could have been something in later episodes, but of course she died. And I'm sure Lee was very, very pissed about it when Lily killed Carly. But he didn't really show it, but I'm sure he was really pissed. So that comes in at the number 6 spot. Coming into number 5 spot, I have Luke. And Luke, man, to this day, I wish never died. Luke was really, really a nice guy, and that was probably one of the best things about him. He was just a nice guy. I especially liked his machete he had. That machete was badass. And Luke, man, he died in a pretty bad way by drowning in a lake, and that's a pretty bad way to die. And man, Luke, he was such a great character. He was in Season 2 from Episodes 1 all the way to Episode 5, so he was in a good amount, so that was the great thing about him. But he shouldn't have died, man. He shouldn't have died. Everyone was thinking he was going to be the new Lee and stuff like that. Everyone thought he was going to have a big fight against Kenny, but that actually never happened. Of course, Kenny had a big fight against somebody else, Jane. And I thought it was a pretty cool fight overall, though. But everyone was saying, oh, it was going to be Kenny versus Luke at the end of the season. But Luke, man, he didn't have that many problems with Kenny. He kind of did in the first few episodes they were together, but after that they were fine, man. They enjoyed each other. They didn't get that pissed at each other anymore. But they overall did have a good amount of fights in between the first few episodes he was in. But Luke, man, he was a great character, and I really wish I never killed him off. So he definitely deserves number 5 spot. Coming in at number 4, we have Jane. Now Jane was in episodes 3, 4, and 5, and could possibly still be alive depending on your choices, because of course you could either let her die by Kenny, or you can shoot Kenny at the end of episode 5 in season 2. And Jane is another one of those characters that is just really badass female, and she overall taught Clementine a lot. She taught Clementine, you know, Lee taught Clementine the basics of survival, but in my opinion Jane taught her the street smarts, you know, who to trust, who not to trust, who you should stick with. And she told Clementine sometimes on your own is better, and she was very similar to Michonne in those regards, that she always told Clementine that being alone is sometimes better than being with people, because sometimes people are just they may have mistakes and they could kill you, and sometimes being alone can be a lot better. And that one thing that Jane taught Clementine really deserved to make her be at the number 4 spot. Now, a lot of you are going to be very surprised I didn't put this higher on the list, but this is Lee for the number 3 spot. Now, the reason why I didn't put him higher is because the first two, my favorite 2 people, are, you know, a lot better in my opinion. But Lee is a great character as well. He is the consent of Clementine. He basically saved Clementine from death. He saved her completely, bringing her to survival, because she would have died if it wasn't for Lee. She wouldn't have made it out there alone. I'm sure no one would have found her. You know, if someone did find her, I'm sure it wouldn't have been Lee. And if it wasn't Lee, who was it going to be? Some dumbass who doesn't know how to take care of a little girl, because Lee sure as hell didn't know how to take care of a little girl. But look what he did. He brought her to complete safety, and now Lee, you know, brought Clementine to the point where she is now, and she went from a little girl to now being safe wherever she is, you know, depending on her choices. Of course, she could be in Wellington, she could be out, you know, happy with Kenny, but she could possibly be on her own. But that's not really Lee's fault at all. But Lee is just a great character overall, and definitely deserves number 3 spot, because just of his effects on Clementine, and also on Kenny, to be honest. A lot of his things he's done affected Kenny as well, but he definitely deserves number 3 spot. And coming at the number 2 spot, it is Kenny. And Kenny, man, I love Kenny. Kenny is just such a badass character, especially with that eye patch now. Not really a full-out eye patch, but he is just a badass character. And he isn't really smart in any direction. He's more of a insane old man, but I love that. I love that how he is very, very, he made many mistakes. You know, he definitely doesn't work well in groups. He's definitely better off being with some of the people he loves, because he doesn't like being with people that he doesn't care about, because he never agrees with them. You know, he always starts fights with people, which is one reason why a lot of people don't like him. But I think that that's not really a bad thing, because every time in every situation he's in, he's the one who's being the smart guy. He's saying we got to keep moving, because if they stay still for too long, they're eventually going to get, you know, no food, and they're going to die, and they need to keep moving. They need to get to the safe spots as soon as possible before everything gets worse, because eventually things will get worse. And everyone always is disagreeing with Kenny. There's never anyone on Kenny's side, and I always try to be on Kenny's side as much as possible, because I really agree with him in every single situation. But, you know, a lot of people never get to agree with him, but I'm always agreeing with him, and I think he's just a really badass character, especially when he killed Carver. It was just a really badass way, you know, smashing his face in with that crowbar. He definitely deserved it, because, I mean, he beat his eye in with the walkie-talkie thingy. So Kenny definitely deserves number 2 spot. Now, coming at the number 1 spot, I have, you guessed it, Arvo. No, I'm just kidding. Clementine. Arvo is one of my least favorite characters. Obviously, a lot of people hate Arvo for just being an annoying Russian man. He's a very annoying person. But Clementine, of course, is my number 1 favorite character, because just seeing her growing up from season 1 to season 2 is probably the best thing, and especially us seeing her in season 3 is going to be very, very rewarding, just to see how she's gone from being 8 in season 1 to, I think she's supposed to be like 14 or something in season 3, but she was 11 in season 2 actually, and she was very badass. She came to being one of the badass characters of the series, and she's a woman, and that's very surprising. And the reason why I absolutely love her is because she knows how to survive. She knows who to trust, and she knows all this stuff because of the people who she's been with. She has been with Kenny, Jane, Lee, and all of them have taught her who to stick with and who to not stick with, because you need to be with the right people to be able to survive. And, you know, of course, people have told her things that she didn't really need to know, and things that wasn't important, things that could possibly get her killed. But those were the bad characters, like Carver. I remember Carver was talking to her about sometimes you have to kill people to live. And, I mean, that makes sense, but it wasn't the best thing possible, because that kind of made some people change their thoughts about who Clementine is and who she will kill, who she will steal from, and what she will do to survive. And depending on your choices, Clementine can be very different from one another. She can be a very nice character, she can be a very badass character, she can be a very asshole character. It's all depending on your choices, but depending on my choices, I make Clementine a badass, nice girl who's nice to the people who she cares about, and is very, very rude to those who are just, you know, not worth being nice to. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys on my next one. Peace out.